realized that there were so many complicated things about the industry itself. So there are legal things, there are moral things, there are ethical things that caused us to ask a lot of questions, and this story seemed to incorporate all of those things.
And Mr. Ray was very willing from the beginning to...
No.
No.
Well, okay. Yeah, no, we the whole process of filming with him was touch and go the whole way.
Questions from the audience? Yes.
It was a great film, and that I couldn't really tell at the end of it if you personally liked him or didn't, and I'm wondering if you could speak towards that.
Can people hear that in the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
The question of whether I like him or not feels, I've been asked this question before, and it can't be relevant to the film because the purpose of making the film is for you to decide. And I'm happy that you can't tell.
Yes.
So I'm just curious, watching the film caused a lot of emotions for me, and one group of people that I didn't hear from were the victims' families, and I'm curious as to why not.
Sure.
Because some of them were outside, so they obviously care.
Of course they care, of course. And I met with Mrs. Brown, and I spoke with her, and Allison spoken with her, and I mean, we feel for her and for all the families, of course. One of the very important parts of this film that we felt was very important to tell was to have the people who were there, who had followed James for quite a while through the series of events, through the series of courses, and found themselves at the Sweat Lodge because they had been pretty dedicated to James's courses. And we wanted to tell this story through their point of view, and that's Julie and Brandy and Laura and Beverly who were there, and we wanted to hear exactly what happened through their points of view. And the families, my goodness, must have gone through a horrible experience, but at the same time, that story is their story, and this was going to be the story of the people who were at the event.
Yes.
I have two questions. One, the author of The Secret and Oprah are not present in the film except in flashbacks. The second question is the way he looks. Now, there's been a lot written about human growth, hormones, his hair constantly changing colors. He looks like he's got filler or Botox or something on his face. That kind of narcissism or vanity is also not something that you chose to put in the film. And I just wondered why you chose not to have it and just leave me watching this physical transformation.
That is the power of film. You are able to watch, and I don't need to tell you that he does all those things. You can actually see it for yourself. We did reach out to Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret, and we also reached out to Oprah, and both declined to do interviews.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
The impression I get from the film is that he himself was essentially unchanged by this tragedy that he caused. Is that what you were trying to convey?
Is that what you would, I mean, my question would be, is that what you take from the film?
Yes, it is.
Great. I mean, I think that's the important, that was a very important part of making the film, was that the viewer can decide how the viewer feels about James Ray. That it's not a didactic essay of us telling you how to feel. It's really important that you come to that decision. I think that's what we're trying to convey in this film.
Yeah, the back. Yeah.
I'm curious why nobody that worked with or for James running the events or having some kind of a role in the building the structure. They didn't seem to have a voice in the film either. Is that because they were under non-disclosure, or
We did speak with Marta Reese, who actually is in the film, and she did work for James, and she was actually there at the sweat lodge. The building of it, yeah, I think in terms of narratively, I don't know that we actually needed to hear from them. That wasn't the important part to us. The important part to us was the experience of the people who were there.
Actually, yes, sir. Has he seen the film?
Yes, he's seen the film. I will not speak for him. He can speak for himself.
There's an awful lot of women in his audience, older women in particular, but we know nothing about his relationships, his intimate relationships, his personal. Was he ever married? Was he ever divorced? Was he sleeping with his staff? I mean, and I'm not talking about tabloid journalism at all. I happen to think it's a very powerful, well-done documentary. But I'm just curious about these kinds of this part of it.
Yeah. I wish I could answer that for you. I wish I could tell you. I mean, he had a girlfriend who he was living with when we filmed, and they're no longer a couple. He was married prior. He was divorced. I don't know when. I don't know more of this, more details that you're asking. I wish I could.
And that wasn't important to you?
Yes, of course it's important. But for me, the film was about his ability to
Really, it's about his ability to affect people when you know nothing about him. And I think people went through that experience that in the end they really didn't know him. They thought they did, but things turned out very differently.
Yes, in the back.
Yeah. Hi. So I have a question about one character. She was the only sort of interior critique within the film that expressed from within a kind of skepticism. Can you talk about that? You know, it seemed that one sort of anomaly of an interior resistance or critique or question of his methods. There's that one character who was sort of, I forgot exactly what the situation was, but she was sort of challenging him at one of the smaller seminars, and that just seems to stand out.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about. I see, right. So that was one of the recent events, and she was actually, yes, the only person who was critical. Yeah. I mean, most of the people there were there because they wanted to hear what he had to say, and they were not challenging that. I mean, that's what I would say to that.
But I mean, just from the viewer's point of view, it's like there is a sort of, yeah, you can't be but it's fairly no root nature of this audience would be. Like that's the one moment in the film where there's someone who's sort of potentially having a similar reaction within the film instead of being the viewer outside. It's curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the question is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested in that choice. I mean, maybe it's a choice for it's an editing question.
Well, it happened at his event, and it was a very important moment for us to capture, and we put it in because it happened, and yeah. No, there's not a lot of challenging in his events. Yes.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions. Yes.
Hi, Laura.
So I would like to understand what you're hoping the impact of this film will be out there.
In the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the goal for us is really to dig deeper into who James is, to be able to see who he is, to allow you to see who he is, how he acts, what he does, how he tells you all the things that he's doing in order to do whatever he thinks he needs to do to with his life and make a decision on your own whether that is appropriate or not. I think that's the goal of the film. It's also to understand what happened. I think there's a lot of misinformation about what happened, and I think you are part of the film, so you, I think, beautifully explain what happened and why you were there in the first place, and what happened when things went so terribly wrong.
One more question? Yes.
Why do you think that he agreed to do the film? What do you think his reason was for agreeing to do the film? Do you think it was so that people would perhaps see it his way, or do you think it was for advertising?
For me, one of the most important parts of this film is that he doesn't see what a lot of people see. He sees something different. So his rationale for why he chose to be in the film, you're asking me to kind of guess why he's doing this. I
mean, you worked with him.
Sure,
So you
sure.
must have a
And you
certain
see
idea.
from the film that everything he's doing is about his career.
Okay, Jenny, thank you very much.
Thank you.